Good evening, everyone. You can hear me clearly?
Yes.
Brilliant. It's a real pleasure to be here. Um, and thank you to Andrew and Ayo for setting the stage. In many ways, what I'm going to talk about kind of ties together some of the things that they've already mentioned. Like Esosa said, my name is Femi. 10 years and a bit ago, myself and two friends set up the first technology hub in Nigeria, a social innovation center in Lagos called the Co-Creation Hub. And we set it up basically out of frustration that the same problems that we experienced in Nigeria growing up in healthcare, in education, we had become men, married, had children, and the same problems still existed. And from our sojourn in the world, we realized Nigeria and Nigerians do not lack the capacity that's required to fix the country. I think there are a number of other factors that we need to understand and find a way to transcend to fix the problems in the country. One of the big ones which we saw was an interest in working in isolation. We had a saying, or we had an advice that you typically get from your parents growing up, or when you're about to go, they'll tell you don't go and do business with friends. Don't partner with people, because when the business makes money, somebody is going to stab you in the back. Now, the truth is you cannot fix a problem that is complex working alone. So at the heart of our methodology, the heart of our approach, the heart of what we preach as an approach to fixing the problems in the country, in the continent, is co-creation and collaboration. For every single problem you see in the African continent, there is a whole ecosystem of actors that are either the cause, are affected by, or affect those problems. Rarely do they ever get the chance to come together to think and to act on solutions to those problems. Someone said where 2 or 3 Nigerians are gathered, somebody is blaming government. And for us, we realize we can't rely on government to fix the problems facing the country. Yes, they have a responsibility in helping to scale solutions. But see, even in the West, even in the UK, I worked in the Young Foundation, the UK's foremost center of social innovation. And we know, even in the UK, that almost every major trend you see as innovation that has now become commonplace will typically start with an outsider. The first guy in the industrial age who decided to grant his staff paid leave was treated like a crazy man by his fellow factory owners. But the moment he was able to show that by giving his workers the opportunity to cool off and re-energize, he was having less sickness in the factory floor, and performance was up and output was up, and he was making more money. Then others saw it and adopted it until it got to the point where it became commonplace. And now we've taken it for granted. It's almost given that when you work, you will be given paid leave. It takes government to scale innovation. It takes individuals, it takes outliers to actually find and craft and create those innovations. And so for what we set out to do in Nigeria was to create an environment where outliers, innovators, crazy people who believe that the system can be different, can find the support, the resources, the networks, the people, the funds, the technology that they can use to bring their ideas off the ground. And for 10 years, going to 11 years, that's what we've been doing and pushing the forefront of. How do you bring people together to tackle the problems in education, tackle the problems in healthcare, in the governance of the country, around the environment, around poverty, around healthcare? How do you bring people who have ideas that can fix those problems? How do you give them access to the resources that they require to get their ideas off the ground. Of course, it's not an easy job, but every day you start finding that more and more people are understanding that they have a role and that it is possible to actually fix some of these things. When we started the work 10 years ago, in our first set of engagements where we bring people together and tell them to conceptualize solutions to social problems, the first question they ask, they say, "You mean me?" Because they spent so long in a system where we are taught and we're trained to externalize the problem and the solution to the problem. It is always somebody else's fault. And there's really nothing I can do. It's bigger than me. The minute you start to get people to realize that no matter how big a problem is, you can actually break it down to a specific point of entry where you can actually come and create a solution. And create a solution that is financially sustainable and potentially a very profitable business. For a long time as a society, we've operated around the dichotomy that if it is about making money, then it's business. But if you want to solve social problems, go and create an NGO. And that dichotomy is false and is part of the problems in the way the society is structured and functions. There is no society in the world that has achieved development on the back of charity. None. And so what we set out to do too, and to encourage, is to help people to get to that new paradigm of how do I solve a problem that affects the life of millions of people, so improve their quality of living, but run it as a business and run it profitably. And it's a different mindset. It took a while for it to sink. In fact, for many people, they thought we were foolish for doing it because, come on, you can clean out. But the truth is, when you think about the African continent, when you think about Nigeria, I say this a lot, when it comes to core technology, deep tech, deep IP stuff, we don't have the infrastructures as yet to compete with the rest of the world. If you look at the number of academic papers that are coming out of African universities, if you look at the amount of cutting-edge research that's coming out of African universities, we're miles behind the rest of the world. What we have that the rest of the world doesn't have, which is our competitive advantage if we see it as such, is multiple deep dimensional problems that are out of the realm of thinking and reality for people in the West, around which we can craft innovative solutions that can affect humankind beyond our continent. One of the startups we supported at the Hub builds technology that you can use to monitor your electricity power consumption across multiple sources. And over time, you can determine in this month, did we spend more on the generator, on the inverter, or on the mains, the grid? Now, that kind of solution cannot be developed by a designer in Silicon Valley who has never seen power failure in his life. When someone in the context within which we're operating can see that as an area where they can create a solution that's adding value, their biggest clients are institutions that have multiple facilities where they have to spend a lot on alternative power, most times using generators, and theft of diesel is a big headache that they have to cope with. Now, that's not a problem that a designer in the West can even start to conceptualize because it's out of their realm of reality. And so when you look across the landscape of the continent, you may see our problems and there may be reasons based on the past, based on what we see on Comic Relief's Red Nose Day, as a reason to have sympathy for us. But innovators on the continent are starting to take those problems and using them as the seeds for new ventures that they are creating that potentially will be groundbreaking in the rest of the world. At the heart of this is the ability to design. So technology is critical as a tool, but before you even bring technology, the ability to conceptualize a solution with clarity of an outcome that you want to achieve, and then your ability to look at what is the prevailing state of technology in this place, what is the culture of people around the use of technology, and how do we, using that as the seeds and the ingredients, craft a new solution to that problem and build an interesting business model around it that means that we can deliver this as a solution that is improving people's lives and that potentially can be a very profitable business. Now, that is what is happening at the moment in the continent, particularly around the rapid growth in the economics of the tech startup ecosystem that's attracting the attention of investors across the world. The truth is, in more mature markets, the opportunities for investments that can yield very high folds in a short while are reducing by the day. It's in emerging markets where you have 100 million people, 1.2 billion in India, where people are starting to grow in their purchasing power and their desire for tools that make their lives more comfortable and more interesting. That lots of growth opportunity exists for businesses that can create solutions that dial into those needs. The ability to actually conceptualize those solutions, the ability to actually build those solutions, the ability to actually invest in those solutions, unfortunately, it's not something that our existing education system is preparing people for at the moment. We have an education system that is very focused on grades and certificates and not enough on competencies and skills, which is part of why, even though, like Andrew said, we have the largest growing workforce in the world, we also have record number of youth unemployment, because the bridge that connects what happens in school to what's going to happen in the world of work is broken. People do not understand the context of what they're studying in school in relation to what they're going to do afterwards. For most of our education systems, even the people who are teaching, for them, that connection is not clear. And if it's not clear for the teacher, how can they pass that across to the students? The content is not focusing on what are the skills that are going to be required for the jobs that we're going to have in the next 5 years, in the next 10 years. See, the top jobs in the world right now, a lot of them didn't exist 10 years ago. Data analytics, data analysts, social media managers, influencers didn't exist as job types 10 years ago. The jobs we're going to have in 10 years' time, we also don't know it right now. How do we train people using 19th century methods, 19th century focus for jobs in the 21st century that we're not even aware of? How do we retool the system, not just to teach, but also to actually prepare them with practical, concrete opportunities to actually use those skills, so that it's not just what you read in a book or what someone said to you, but what you can actually do with your hand, because that's what employers are looking for. Now, now in all of these, there are opportunities, and I'd like to end the presentation on this, particularly for people who are on the call. There are opportunities for everyone to get involved in the work that's needed to actually move the continent forward, leveraging technology and design. There's room for creators. We need to build, at the CC Hub, we train kids from as young as 4 in the ability to build with STEM tools, with technology. How do they program? How do they build a website, build an app? On the one hand, we're teaching them the technology, but more important than that, we're teaching them the core competencies, project management, problem solving, creative thinking, that are going to be necessary for us to look at all those problems we have and create valuable solutions out of them. The more we can scale this, the more we can get more people, more schools, more systems, us as parents keying into this, the better for the future of the society. I gave a talk in my daughter's school years ago in Nigeria. And one of the things I mentioned was an observation from the programs we did for kids. Saturday morning, a parent came into the hub with two kids, a boy and a girl. They dropped the boy off for coding classes and took the girl away. And I stopped them and asked them, so why? And they said, no, the program is enough for boys. And I told them in the school, I said, I'm a father of daughters. The world already is patriarchal and will discriminate against your daughters. You must not start that discrimination from the home. You must not put them in boxes. There's the creative thinking, problem solving, technology is not skills for boys. It's not skills for men. Women have a role to play in this. And as parents, we also need to encourage our kids, boys and girls, beyond the mathematics and the English. We need to encourage them about the critical skills that are going to be necessary for them to be able to play in the future. The second area which I'll draw attention to is who is going to own Africa's future. At the moment, a lot of the tech startups that are coming up in the country and the continent constantly demand capital to manage to fuel their growth. At the moment, the bulk of that capital is coming from outside the continent, from people who are not from the continent, because they're seeing the future that we from the continent most times do not see. And so for all intents and purposes, we'll see a company and think it's Nigerian, it's Kenyan, but it's actually majorly owned by Americans. We here, us Africans, and particularly us in the diaspora, can play in investing in businesses that are building the future of our continent. We launched a syndicate fund. CC Hub launched a syndicate fund last year that gives opportunity for people, anyone that wants to put money into startups, to do it alongside seasoned investors. Happy to share the link for how you can be a part of that, but there are lots of those opportunities. We need more of our own people investing in our future so that we can keep the resources of our continent in our continent. A digital recolonization is happening, and we can stand aside and watch it happen without playing in the game. And then last but not the least, and Andrew mentioned policy. We have a role to play in leveraging our power, collective power and individual power, to influence the people that we have in our own circles, who have influence in the direction of policy and the direction of the country, to make sure we're creating rules that are friendly for innovators and people who are creating the future of the continent. I don't know who's on the call. I don't know who you have access to, but I know we know people. The more we can use what we know to actually set the stage for the future of the continent to be bright, the better for us all. That's my spiel. I'll stop there, and I look forward to receiving questions.